Hello again, everyone. I am Chris Shura and Robert Harding and the vacationing Justin Ritzel are with us today at the Citizen Sports Weekly for Wednesday, July 14, 2021. Before I get started, I have to click off this notification that this meeting is being live streamed. So I'm just going to tap that real quickly. Boom. There we go. It's gone. All right.
You know what I didn't miss last week? Your
What?
play-by-play of your notifications. I mean, look, I get it. You know, you get some different pop-ups during this thing. OnlyFans notifications, whatever.
No,
we don't need it. We don't need to know about it. Just do it. Move about your business.
Well, first of all, this is technically a meeting. Okay, so I get a notification saying that this meeting is being live streamed. So it doesn't start until you hit the play button or the start button or whatever you want to call it. So I have to tap it, or I'm going to be looking at these words in the middle of my screen for the next 45 minutes or so. So I have to tap it off, and I'm sure there's people that must be thinking, like, why is this guy like tapping, doing that? So I'm just explaining it.
No one's thinking that.
No.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe they did after the first 5 times that you announced it to everyone. But I think if they're watching it now, they probably understand.
Okay, I'm back from vacation. Justin is on vacation. Nice enough to show up. I give him props for that. I decided just to say the heck with it and not do it last week. So you guys did a great job. I watched the video. Superb effort. The dynamic duo. How cute. That was really amusing to hear you guys refer to yourself as the dynamic duo. But hey. So, all right, guys.
There was a lot of talent on the show last week. It almost felt like Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout were hosting the Sports Weekly, and now we got our bum pitcher back from vacation. So here we are.
Okay. Well, geez, it's nice to be back. I feel so welcome to be back. I missed you guys too. All right, let's get to it. NCAA, we all know that athletes now, college athletes, can make money off their names, images, and likenesses. So NIL is what it's called, and I've advocated for this over the years. I believe that college athletes should be able to make money off their names, everything else, because look, this is still America. It's a free country. We have capitalism. I get some people like to say that, they're getting college scholarships at the highest level of Division I. That is true, but we all know that there are youngsters that are college athletes that are not getting full rides. That are only getting partial rides, that don't have the time to get jobs when they're in school because of their sports. So I would say that any way that you can make a buck off your likeness, go for it. Buddy Boeheim is doing cameos now for $50. I guess the old man gets $200. That's kind of interesting. $200 to get a cameo from Jim Boeheim. So I think it's great. I think it should have happened years ago. I'm thrilled for these kids. I think for some athletes that play lesser known sports or sports that they're in a little town and they don't get a lot of TV exposure or whatever, if they can make a few extra bucks endorsing something, good for them. So the question that Robert wants to know is should past penalties be dropped? Specifically, Reggie Bush, who was stripped of his Heisman Trophy after it came out that he was being paid or received benefits when he was with the University of Southern California. Look, here's the deal. I shouldn't say here's the deal, but here's my opinion, basically. If it was against the rules and you broke the rules, then that's it. I mean, we can't always go back and revisit every situation that happened. Every time a rule was broken in the past, we can't revisit this, okay? So we move on. I feel bad for Reggie Bush that he doesn't have his Heisman anymore, but I think Reggie Bush did pretty good in the NFL, made a nice chunk of change, and he can sign autographs at USC whenever he wants now and make more money. And Reggie Bush is going to be okay if he doesn't have his Heisman Trophy. I mean, he knew he won it. I give you that. But, he did break the rules, and those were the rules back then. And you can't retroact all this stuff. So, all right, Robert, go ahead. I know you disagree with me by that smirk on your face, so go ahead.
Well, I mean, you just gave the people one of the most predictable takes in the history of this show, Chris. I could do nothing but smirk. Okay, it was so. I mean, I practically put it on the tee for you.
Yeah.
What can I say? Look, I think that one of the things about these penalties over the years, and there's actually one of the more notable ones that affect Syracuse University. Not all of those games, not all of those wins that were vacated would be affected by this, but most of them would because it does involve players who were, I believe, reimbursed for or paid for, appearing at a camp or working at a camp, and they were ruled ineligible because of that. I think the NCAA needs to go back and revisit some of these things because the fact is that these were bad rules to begin with. Basically, they were robbing the athletes of the ability to profit off of their own performance when the NCAA was doing that. And dare I say, coaches like James Boeheim were doing that as well. So, this notion that, we can't go back on it now. Well, there's a lot of people that, think that we should go back and restore the wins on Jim Boeheim's record. If you do that, then you have to do all of these other things as well. And I think it's high time to give Reggie Bush back his Heisman Trophy. And you have to look at all of these other things because there have been cases, certainly more notable cases, some lesser known cases with this that should be revisited now that the rules have changed. Because I think when it comes to the specific cases where players receive some sort of payment or whatever, I think, you need to revisit those cases. Now, academic ineligibility, due to, poor grades or, if there was some other, conduct there, those will have to wait another day and probably won't be changed. But anything related to paying athletes should get another look. And
whoa. Let me just say one thing, though. There's a difference between paying athletes and there's a difference between making money off your image, your likeness, or your name, okay? And I mean, look, illegal benefits are illegal benefits, okay? And this doesn't really change that.
They're illegal. Who says they're illegal?
The NCAA says they're illegal.
Yeah, and no one else does. If I gave you, Chris, if I gave you $1,000, would that be illegal? No, it would be a gift. But the NCAA says that you can't receive money from certain individuals. And that stems from who these people are. So, I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous because the NCAA is dictating who these athletes can get money from and how they can profit off their identity. And where in the hell do they get the place to say that? For no other college student do they have these rules. When I was in college, I went to work for Home Depot. I didn't have to face any wrath from the NCAA gods because I was working for a corporation or I was getting paid in addition to doing what I was doing at college. So why are we treating athletes differently? It's been ridiculous this whole time. If some booster wants to give somebody a gift, that should be allowed. I have no problem with that. I mean, if you're going to allow boosters to be a part of the program, how is that any different than these kids going out getting endorsements? The NCAA wants to dictate the NCAA wants to dictate who pays and how these athletes get profit when that doesn't exist in any other realm. If you were to go out today and get a gift from somebody, who's going to police that? It's not illegal. In this case, the NCAA says, that's not allowed. And for what reason? It's ridiculous. While they profit off these athletes, they live high on the hog. They make millions from corporate sponsorships and everything else. It's okay for them to get paid, but not the players. The whole thing's a joke. The NCAA is a joke. I'll add this. The NCAA needs to go away. That's it. It needs to go away because
Robert, I agree with you.
The concept is antiquated. This idea of people paying or playing for free is ridiculous. Even the Olympic athletes, I mean, look at the endorsement deals and stuff that they get. This idea of amateurism is dead. It needs to go away. And we need to quit acting like, the NCAA is protecting the integrity of anything. The NCAA hasn't had any integrity 4 years. So let's cut it out.
All right. Go ahead, Justin. You've been waiting.
Well, I think we've all kind of made this point that it was kind of BS to an extent that this took so long to happen, to allow athletes to make money off of their likeness, for the simple fact that players like Reggie Bush or these college all-stars, how much money do they bring in for the colleges? USC, how much money did they make during those Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush years from people going to the stadium and buying tickets and purchasing merchandise and buying food and all that kind of stuff that goes into attending a game or being a fan? And Reggie Bush is one example of someone who really made that happen for those select years at USC, and he didn't see a dime of it aside from whatever scholarship money he had, which let's be honest, we all went to college. Money goes quick when you're in college, even when you have meal plans and all that kind of stuff. Rent, food, just going out and doing something around town, that costs money. It's not free. So I think we all agreed that this was overdue, that guys or girls should be able to make money off their likeness. And hopefully this will lead to the return of college football games, NCAA football. I think we can all agree on that, even the video game non-players like Chris. Now, the question at hand was Reggie Bush specifically. Should he be re-awarded the Heisman Trophy? Should his records be reinstated? Yeah, they should have never been taken away in the first place. It happened. You can't take away all the yards and all the games or whatever. You're not retroactively like giving wins to all the teams that USC played in those years. You're just vacating it. I always thought it was stupid. The idea of like these NCAA officials showing up to Reggie, NFL player Reggie Bush's house one day and going in and grabbing the Heisman Trophy off of his shelf and, taking it to some vault where they hid it forever. I always thought that was kind of stupid. But in this case, I'll say like the Heisman is kind of it's like a fraternity, all these guys vote on Heisman winners every year and they go to that ceremony and, shake each other's hands and talk about the good old days. And Reggie Bush is one of the best college football players of all time. And he deserves to be there alongside the Charles Woodsons of the world and all these other Heisman Trophy winners, because he was electric. And I think that the rule change should facilitate that. Okay. He didn't cheat. He didn't skip classes that we know of. He didn't break any real life laws. So why are we punishing this dude? He's an all-time great. Let's recognize him as such in this case.
Well, in regard to the Heisman, remember the Downtown Athletic Club presents the Heisman. It's not the NCAA. So I think the Downtown Athletic Club could just say, yeah, Reggie, we're giving it back to you.
Yeah, but they've punted it. They've punted it to the NCAA.
No, really, they did? Okay, I was going to say, because the DAC, really, they can do whatever the heck they want, really, when you really think about it. But if they punted it to the NCAA, that's a little bit different. I'm going to throw one more thing out there. So you guys don't remember this. Maybe Robert might remember it a little bit, but it happened when he was little. But you might remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, Syracuse had one of the best lacrosse teams of all time, the Gate brothers. And they won, I believe, 2 or 3 national championships in a row. I believe they were stripped of at least 1 or 2 national titles because one of the Gate brothers was basically driving the coach Simmons's wife's car around Syracuse or something. I don't know all the exact details. I can't remember exactly, but basically it had something to do with the use of a car. And because of that, Syracuse was stripped of the national championship. Okay. Again, it's one of those things where, how far back do you go? What is the criteria for restoring things or putting things back? I don't know how you do that. I mean, I really don't know how you do that, if you can do that. Again, Syracuse, the lacrosse team, I mean, like I said, that's a pretty ticky-tacky one, in my opinion. It's not like they were giving this guy a suitcase full of money or anything. I remember the movie Blue Chips back in the early 90s. And, there was a part of the movie where there was a Larry Bird type basketball player, world type basketball player. He wanted a new tractor for his family. And I remember the scene where they gave him a duffel bag full of money and everything. And, I mean, we're not talking about things like that. We're talking about some ticky-tacky stuff where, yeah, maybe you can go back and you can say, all right, this was pretty minor. We can, reinstate that kind of stuff. Other things I think are more major, and I don't know whether you can kind of undo what you did. I don't know for sure. Every situation is different. You're talking, like I said, 30 years from the Syracuse thing, 15 years from Reggie Bush. I mean, how far back are we going to go? That's ultimately something we need to look at. But
well, I think when you're talking about penalties related to financial benefits for players, regardless of what that is, the NCAA of all entities needs to rethink its position, because let's not forget that even during these times, like I just went to look, Chris, it related to Paul Gate receiving, apparently he took out a loan for a car and Simmons' wife was co-signed on the car.
Okay, that's what it was.
So,
okay.
In these situations, it's like, well, what, not in the NCAA's terms, what was done there that was illegal?
Right. What was the competitive benefit? There was none. No, that one. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
So I think in a lot of these cases, what you're going to find is that the only thing wrong with this was the NCAA's hypocrisy, that they can make money off the players, but the players can't make money off themselves. And I think in that case, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to say, look, we need to revisit these penalties because we were wrong all along. And now, according to the court, we're really wrong. So it's time to correct this long-standing injustice, I dare say, because it's been ridiculous that the players haven't been able to profit off themselves this whole time.
All right, we're going to move on to our next topic. This is one I will not be saying much about because it's hockey related. I think Robert intentionally does this because he knows I really can't say much about hockey. But basically, the Tampa Bay Lightning repeated as Stanley Cup champions last week when they took out the Canadiens in 5 games. Give me credit for knowing that one at least. But the question is, can Tampa Bay three-peat? I say yes, why not? I mean, they've gotten this far. Now, obviously, we don't know what their salary cap situation is and there's an expansion draft coming up. The Seattle Kraken is going to be cracking away, drafting players from other teams. So obviously there's some X factors here. Nothing's given. But to me, if you can win 2 in a row, why can't you win 3? But do I think it will happen? No, I say they will not win their 3rd straight Stanley Cup championship. Go ahead, Justin. You got dibs on this one. Go ahead.
Well, Chris, as a matter of fact, there is a website where it has all the salary cap information, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are currently about $3 million over the salary cap that's set for next year, which means they're going to have to dump some talent. I know you say you don't pay much attention to hockey, but there's been a bit of a controversy with this Lightning team because of a salary cap loophole that they took advantage of. You want to talk about start stripping people of titles. Some have been saying that the Lightning should have a nice asterisk because they willingly sat out Nikita Kucherov, who was their best player. They sat him out during this shortened regular season because he was coming off, can't remember exactly what his injury was, but significant injury. He wasn't going to play the whole regular season, and they were kind of up against the salary cap for this year. So they said, hey, sit out during the regular season, come back during the playoffs, and where the salary cap doesn't really count, and we'll go try and win another cup with a fully stacked team. A lot of people didn't like that. I say, if you're willingly going to let your best players sit the entire regular season and you feel that confident that you can still make the playoffs, which obviously the Lightning did, then by all means, go ahead and do it. I just think it's so difficult, and you see this with any sport. Like the Warriors kind of had this when they were going for their three-peat last time around in the NBA, is that you just accumulate so many games. These guys start getting older by a year or two, and it's just very difficult over the course of even 2 years to keep up that level of play. 3 years, there's a reason it hasn't been done since the 1980s, because it's very, very difficult. That goes without saying. Now, the Lightning do have one benefit, if there is one, to this pandemic run of Stanley Cups, is that they haven't played as many games as it typically would have taken to win a Stanley Cup. They only had to play about 60-something games last year. This year, they only had to play 56 plus the playoffs. So they probably knocked off 45, 50 games maybe to their total amount of games that they would have normally played. So they are going to be a more rested group. But there's no way they can go into next season with the same group that they have. They have a couple guys who we already know are going to be injured or are going to miss some time next year. Victor Hedman needs a significant surgery. He's their best defenseman. Steven Stamkos is always kind of a big injury risk. I don't even know if he's good to play 50 games, let alone 82 plus another postseason. And then the other big factor for me is the return to the normal divisions. Like Tampa has a gauntlet of a division that they're going to be returning to. Boston, Toronto, even though they're choke artists every year. Florida is another team to worry about. Montreal, the team they just played in the final, their arrows trending upward. Of course, they have the Sabres in their division, so that's going to be a free 7 or 8 wins every year. But it's going to be no cakewalk like it. Not that it was this year, but that's a tough division that the Lightning are going to go back to. And I just think that considering the players they're likely to lose through the salary cap ramifications or the expansion that Chris alluded to, it's just going to be really tough. I wouldn't be surprised if they get knocked out in the first or second round next year just because of that wear and tear. And let's be honest, there's a lot of really good teams that can also win it. Vegas is going to be back. Colorado is going to be back. And a lot of these teams in the East that I just mentioned. So I don't see it happening. But I do like their odds better than what necessarily Pittsburgh did a couple of years ago when they were going for a three-peat.
Robert.
Yeah, I think that just in today's professional sports world, it's a difficult thing to three-peat. You have a little bit more parity, as Justin pointed out. The return to the division, what the division should be. There's a lot of good teams in there, and so that's going to change the dynamics quite a bit, I think. And not to mention that there's other, certainly other competitive teams out there, certainly in the West, and so I think it'll be tough, but they certainly have some good pieces there to make a run. They have arguably the best goaltender in the league, and Vasilevsky. This guy is a monster in the playoffs. If the Lightning get in the playoffs and he's healthy, you can count on them making a deep run. And they have some other good young players on this team that they aren't huge stars, but they contribute, and that's key, especially in the playoffs. And so I think that it's not the craziest thought in the world. In fact, I think if you're into sports betting, maybe sprinkle a little bit on the Lightning to three-peat. I think that would be a nice bet that you might see pay off. But yeah, it's going to be harder next year. All due respect to the Lightning, because they did win the titles. A little bit of an easier road thanks to the pandemic. As the Los Angeles Dodgers know, the Washington Nationals are truly the last great World Series champion because they've actually rolled through 162 games and didn't have this Mickey Mouse schedule that the Dodgers had. But, I think in the Lightning's case, at least they played most of their seasons. They had to go through the playoffs. They faced some great teams along the way, and they won those games. And so I think that, to Justin's point, yes, it'll help them that they've played fewer games. So going into a full season, maybe that'll help them a bit. But yeah, the salary cap situation is going to be an interesting one for them because that's where they could lose a few players. And of course, the expansion draft with the Kraken. We'll see who they give up through that. But yeah, it's going to be a tough road for the Lightning next season.
All right. Our last topic, Major League Baseball. Last night was the All-Star game. It was fun to watch. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting a mammoth blast. And, all of a sudden MLB is I don't want to say it's an up-and-coming sport because, is it really that far down? But as we've discussed many times, MLB seems to be handicapped by its clueless Mr. Magoo type commissioner, Rob Manfred. And as we know, there are some rules in Major League Baseball that we don't agree with. And a couple of these rules basically came about because of the pandemic. The first one is if you have a doubleheader, it's only 7 innings, which of course that's the rule in the minor leagues. It's been that way for 30 years in the minor leagues. And then also the idea that the game goes extra innings. You start off the 10th inning with a runner on second base. And Rob Manfred said yesterday that it is likely that both those rules will go bye-bye next year. And I say thank you. I think that's great. I think MLB needs to do that. It needs to get back to its fundamental rules of 9-inning games and starting legitimately extra innings with nobody on base. Now, I will say this, though. I would say that if a game goes beyond 12 innings, if you go to the 13th, then I would consider possibly, I'd have to look into it more to see how many games go beyond 13 innings. Maybe having a runner on first base, not second base. Let's not make this too easy. But maybe after the 13th inning, because how many games go 13 innings? It's still pretty rare. But that being said, innings 10, 11, and 12 should be regular baseball and take it from there. So, all right. That's it from that one. All right, Robert, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, rarely does Manfred say anything right, but this was on the money. These two rules, I know that I think they experimented with the runner on second rule at some of the low levels. I think he maybe even went up to AAA at one point. It's just a bad rule because especially in MLB where you have kind of this this power game where either pitchers get strikeouts or hitters are blasting home runs. I can remember seeing a game where it just kept going back and forth. You have two good offensive teams, and the game gets extended because it's not hard for them to drive in that run. So I'm glad to see that rule go away. It's rare that games go that long anyway, so I don't see why there needs to be any fix for those. I get why teams would complain about having to, throw different pitchers out there or anything. But guess what? You had 9 innings to play better. So maybe it's a lesson to perform better early on, and you would avoid those situations. The double headers thing was just stupid from the start because, you knew that these debates were going to come. Well, and in the case of Madison Bumgarner, we did see that, he throws a no-hitter and then there's a debate. Oh, is it actually a no-hitter? Should it go in the record books as a no-hitter? And, that's just one of the reasons it was stupid. But again, double headers are, I don't want to say rare, but, it's not like teams, have to deal with those a lot. That COVID, I think, changed that a bit because of, the cancellations and stuff. But when you're talking about, weather related things, that, especially now with so many stadiums having retractable roofs, it's not that big of an issue. So, I'm glad Manfred moved on. Hopefully MLB moves on from Manfred. That would be the next great thing to happen for baseball. Make Shohei Ohtani not only a pitcher, a hitter, make him commissioner while we're at it, because he could certainly do a hell of a lot better job than that bum Manfred. These two rules are an example of just how baseball has lost its way, from the administrative aspects of the game. You have so much to celebrate. Don't muck it up with your stupidity. Get out of the way. Let the players, let this great young crop of players lead the way, because they are making baseball exciting again.
Yeah, baseball, I mean, like I said, there's some great young players, like you said, Ohtani, Guerrero, Tatis. I mean, it's amazing. And there's, it's just the future is really bright for baseball. There's some good young stars and some teams on the rise. The Padres and the Blue Jays could be, getting there eventually. And of course, the Yankees are still pretty talented, although they've kind of underachieved in the first half. But go ahead, Justin, your thoughts on baseball.
Robert, all I can say is don't tell Stephen A. Smith that you want Ohtani to be the commissioner of baseball.
Don't even bring up that guy's name, please. That's the last guy I want to hear. That guy, he does not deserve to hear his name mentioned on our show. He gets enough free publicity, okay? This guy steals money. He gets $12 million. He's stealing money. It's not even funny, but go ahead. I'm not jealous, by the way.
Not at all. Yeah, it must be tough, Chris. Like, you know, you go on here and you make your asinine takes and don't see a dime of it. He gets to go on national television every day, go to the NBA finals, go to all these events, UFC or that, and he gets $12 million a year for saying the same ridiculous stuff that you say. So I would be jealous.
Country, isn't it? It's a great country. God bless America.
Listen, when MLB instituted these rules last year, I did not like it at all, but I understood it to an extent because it was a pandemic season. It was going to be a weird year anyway. And I think the 7-inning doubleheaders, I guess they just allowed for a little bit more flexibility. You didn't want, if there was a chance to limit these pitchers' arms in what was going to be a condensed season anyway, I guess I understand taking advantage of that. And then, you know, again, considering that flexibility, I don't think you wanted to take any chance at these 18-inning games where, you know, you might need a team to wake up the next day and fly who knows where because of the way the schedule worked out and the coronavirus cancellations, postponements. So to an extent, I understood it last year, but it was a huge mistake to not go back to the way things were previously this season, considering it was going to be more of a normal year. And I think what really hit home for me, considering the doubleheader specifically, is that when you go to a Major League Baseball game, you're paying, in some cases, hundreds of dollars to go to these games and sit in these prime seats. And imagine you go there, you buy your ticket expecting to see 9 innings worth, you know, 4 or 5 at bats of your favorite player. And then a game from earlier in that series gets rained out and it gets pushed to a doubleheader for the game you're going to see. And suddenly you're expecting to see Shohei Ohtani swing the bat 5 times or 4 times at least. And now he's only swinging it 3 times. And I would feel robbed because I paid good money to see the star players, and now I'm seeing less of them. So it's not only like it makes you question the legitimacy of the result of the game, but as a fan, you're losing out. So there's kind of a joke like no one hates baseball more than Major League Baseball, but these rules were kind of an example of that. Like, why is it a good idea to have less of your product? So we all come on here and we complain about Rob Manfred on a weekly basis. Maybe for the first time in his career as commissioner, he's done something good, just come out and said, yeah, this isn't going to be a part of our product anymore. Hey, thank God. Now we get to move on to the next thing that we're certain to whine about on a consistent basis. And I don't know about you guys, for me, I can't wait for the robot umps. I was very against it in the years that this has kind of become a bigger discussion, but I've watched so many Angels games this year where, and I'm not saying like, hey, my team has any right to win games over another team. Like, let's settle it out in the field and let the best team win. But there was one of the games against the Mariners the other day that the Angels played where Ohtani got rung up for a pitch that was 3 baseballs outside, called strike 3. And Matt Vasgersian, to his credit, who's the Angels play-by-play guy this year, said, oh, yeah, the people came here to see Ohtani get rung up on a pitch a foot outside the zone instead of seeing him hit dingers. That's really the product that you want to sell. Way to go, MLB. Listen, calling strikes, I'm not an umpire. There is a degree of difficulty to it, but it's just gotten out of hand. Some of these strike calls that are there, some of these calls that get called balls that are strikes, it's embarrassing. Just get the robot umpires in there. Let's take the human error out of it. We have the technology. You guys know most of the time I do not favor the technology aspect when it comes to review and all that, but it's gotten so bad to this point that something needs to be done. These umpires are just not getting the job done. Take it off their plate. Let's get the robot umpires in.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll add to the I'll add one more thing to that is I was watching the Yankees game on Sunday, and the umpire, I think this was the third game that this guy had worked as a home plate umpire. So he's pretty new to the MLB ranks, and he was setting up like on the inside of a right-handed batter. You know, he wasn't like right down the middle of the plate. He was looking almost inside. Like at one point, his whole body was off the plate. So it's like, you know, I mean, that seems to be like a basic thing that that umpires should know, is that you have to position yourself better. And you know, his positioning was all wrong. His calls were all wrong too. You know, there were many calls in that game. There was a pitch that went right down the middle. It was just a little bit high in the strike zone, but it was in the strike zone and it was right down the middle. He called it a ball. And so, yeah, when I saw that pitch, I was like, whew, you know, we need those robot umps ASAP because it's not getting any better. And if this is the quality we can expect from some of the younger umps replacing the Joe West of the world, we're in more trouble than we were before.
Yeah, no, I think something does need to be done about umpiring, no doubt about that. So, all right, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. It's been fun. It's great to be back. And Justin, again, thanks for showing up on your vacation. That was very nice of you.
It's a staycation.
Yeah, yeah.
A raincation, maybe some would say.
Well, you know, get out, maybe, you know, ride your bike, walk the dogs, you know, go to the zoo. And that's what I did last week. I took my daughters to the zoo in Syracuse. So, you know, so catch a Red Wings game, maybe if you can, you know, maybe go see if the Jays come back to Buffalo over after the All-Star break, see if you can catch a game there. It's a lot of fun. No doubt about that. So, all right, gentlemen, it's been fun. And everybody, thanks for joining us. And we will see you next week.